News after Remchuk, but I'd like to speak about the ice hockey.
Congratulations, you're one of the 13 listeners of the Real Life Podcast.
We just traded a migraine in for like an orgasm.
Might want to mark that down.
Yep. All of my projects are on schedule until they're not.
A member of the Nation Network of Podcasts.
About as funny as we're going to get today.
Welcome to the Real Life Podcast, episode 248. I'm Tyler Remchuk. Bag Milk's here. Chalmers. Wanye. Jay Downton, whose Zoom screen right now just says Jay Downton's iPhone. Why not? Mix it up.
I'm multitasking. I'm sending, I've got this app on my phone called TurboScan. I got to get some important documents out. I've scanned them now. This is the world I live in. I could podcast and scan some shit when I need to.
All right. That was number one on my list of stuff to get to. Make sure Jay scans important documents. On to number two. This podcast is brought to you by Oodle Noodle. 14 locations in Edmonton, and not only are they good for your hunger, they are good for the community. They've already raised over $100,000 for local charities, and they aren't stopping there. 10% of all in-store proceeds go towards the local charities. Oodle Noodle, check them out. All right.
Very aggressive.
It scared me there a bit.
That was really aggressive.
Yeah, I know. All right, I'm going to get to Wanye first here. What's it been like running the Oilers Nation Twitter recently?
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's being 5 times as popular as you are in real life, but you're not allowed to say half the shit you're thinking about. You know what I'm saying?
Fair.
I got like Jay on my one shoulder being like, don't you say anything risque like you do sometimes in the podcast when you get that fucking look in your eye. And I'm like, okay. And then I got Bagno being like, oh, really? You want to run that? Hey, okay. Well, there's a lot of people paying attention, not like your account, which is mostly bots you paid for in 2014. I'm like, all right, but it is great. There's like people I blocked 1,000 years ago lipping me off. There's all sorts of people who I think we're the Oilers bag milk sometimes. People are yelling at us as though we can fix problems and shit. It was great.
Do you get bag milk? Do you get a lot of tweets like that? People thinking you're the Oilers being like, hey, do this.
Yes. Yeah. Twitter's not the worst one of the platforms though. By far, hands down, Facebook, people think this is the Oilers. Like, all in the play-in round when all that 50-50 stuff was going on, I had to set an auto script for anybody that replied, "Where's my 50-50 tickets?" to just be like, "This is a fan account. This is not the Oilers. This is a fan account. This is not the Oilers. This is a fan account. This is not the Oilers." So.
I would like it to be firmly known that we have no affiliation with the Edmonton Oilers, the NHL, or anything like that, and I'm damn proud.
I can't even do crossovers if you have to know the truth. You know, what further removed could you be from being an official thing?
Yeah, I'm not wearing pants right now.
Oh, nice.
It's also fair. I'm wearing a Buffalo Bills jersey. Go Bills!
So if you want to watch above the counter at Bag Milk's residence on the podcast, that's free. If you want below the counter, that's his OnlyFans.
Yeah,
you just run a different camera at the same time while you're doing the pod.
Yeah, there's a camera underneath the table right now.
All right. We're going to do a listener profile. Also coming up in about 20 minutes time, Harnarayan Singh. You'll recognize him as the play-by-play voice of 2 of the first 3 Oilers games. New national guy for Sportsnet, Hockey Night in Canada. Of course, he of Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi edition. He's going to join us in a second. But first, we didn't do a listener profile last Thursday, so we're going to get to one today on the pod. And we go to our Twitter DMs. Paul at PLADELL. I think that's Paul Ladle. Is how you would say that. He is, has a very impressive job. That's usually that's the first question in the listener survey. He supervises the dental lab at the U of A.
Oh, well done.
So he's a genius.
Yeah.
He's also a great guy. He's a on-call firefighter for the town of Stony Plain.
Oh, good man. He's also a local hero.
Yes, he is a local hero. Number 2, interesting fun fact about him. He's been lucky enough to, Jay, he one-ups you. He has 3 holes in one.
Oh, wow. How dare he come onto this show that I'm part of and flex on me.
Par 3s don't count. Mini golf don't count.
Par 3s. What? Why wouldn't par 3s count?
Par 3 golf courses don't count.
Both of my hole-in-ones are on par 5s.
No. Par 3 golf courses. Par 3 golf. Like if you, what was that?
Oh, sorry.
That needs to be a noise on the board when something's funny.
If
you go to Kinsman and knocking one from 60 yards, I don't want to see a plaque on your wall.
I know, but just for me, like initially I thought you just meant like par 3 holes, and I don't know why I would have thought that.
I've never played a par 3 golf. I never played a par 3 golf course. Are the holes not 100 yards and over?
They're
Chalmers, I can't answer
around.
you because out of everyone I know, it's so shocking you don't have a hole in one that I don't even want to discuss the topic with you. It's so
Well,
bizarre
and
you
this
don't
is
have a
just-
hole in one.
And this is why I'm kind of getting to this. If I was to go play a par 3 golf course and the holes were like 100 to 160 yards, if I got one, you better believe I'm saying I got one.
Yeah, but you're
Well-
getting 18 attempts instead of just the usual 3.
Yeah.
So if you were to go play a
Yeah.
par 3 golf course every day for the year, like you would eventually drain a bunch.
When you break
Well,
through, Chalmers,
you
it's going to
gotta
be
get
like Chicago teams winning or Boston teams winning all of a sudden. You're going to be like 63 years old and be like, well, now I got fucking 5 and it took me forever to get one. Then you'll be mad now you have a lot. You wait.
That is my life goal, though, is to get one. Like
But you're so
I can't think
good.
of
It's
something-
so bizarre. Every time a chump gets a hole in one, I always think of you and be like, how does Chalmers still not have a hole in one?
Dude, I saw a thing about a guy on like just an Instagram post like 2 days ago of a guy that went on a golf trip and got one on day 1 and one on day 2.
That's
Wow.
what's going to happen
like-
to you.
Oh.
You wait, son. Just you wait.
Well,
And then there was another one where it showed a guy, old, big, fat guy, walking up to a green. He's got white New Balances on with a golf shirt tucked into his khaki
I can
shorts,
see him. I can see him.
cell phone holster on his belt with
Yes.
a big fat cigar, and
Yeah.
he's got his own full cart. And I was just like, and he's walking up, and they're like, of course this guy gets one. That was the caption. Of course this guy gets one. Oh man.
well, Paul has 3. He's also been listening to the podcast right from the beginning. So he's sort of like a real life historian,
What?
I suppose.
No way.
His favorite moment on the pod, he said there's a lot, but anytime Jay and Chalmers go at it, he says it's gold. He actually really enjoys when you guys talk business as well. And the little thing that he looks forward to is bagged milk giggling constantly at Wanye jokes.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
They have
His
their
oodle
own- they
noodle
have their
order.
own- Yeah, what is it?
His oodle noodle order. He usually gets the gluten-free jungle curry. I'm going to butcher this word. Cambogi?
Cambogia. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, Boji, you're close.
Cambogi.
That's a delicious off-grid selection going gluten-free, but yes.
Well, he says his son is celiac, so the ability to order gluten-free is great. So shout out to Oodle Noodle's gluten-free options. And his answer to the most exotic place he's ever listened to the pod is nothing
I thought-
exciting. Maybe on a plane to Vegas or San Diego.
I thought he was giving us a score. Talking about a celiac kid and then a score right after. That's cool.
That's weird. Also, he had this one where he just chimed in on a later episode of the pod. He's listening to the latest pod. This was back in December, and everyone's sharing their random Oiler associations. You can add an answer that Scott Ferguson was a high school buddy of his.
Oh, well done.
Oh.
There you
How's
go.
this? Paul, Scott Ferguson was my high school girlfriend's cousin.
You guys might know each other.
Now I have a link to Paul.
Yes,
You guys might know each other. Yeah.
That is a
Well,
great
it's like,
listener.
hey,
Become best friends.
another family discovery, just like when Chalmers found out his cousin was Whiskey Woman.
Yeah.
Cousin's cousin. So like
Cousins. Well,
definitely
That's your
family.
cousin.
That's a
Definitely
cousin of
cousin.
some variety.
Second cousin.
Your friend's friend, your frenemy.
Yeah.
So there's our listener profile brought to you by Oodle Noodle. Those are always a ton of fun. They give us good stuff to talk about. Shout out to Paul. He seems like a great
Shout out,
guy.
Paul. Thank you for listening since day one. That is truly, we appreciate
Very
that.
accomplished fella.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're a good man.
Yeah. We appreciate you.
Let's talk a little Oilers. Anyone hitting the panic button?
I was so after game one, I felt like shit and stressed out the next day, and then was obviously brought back to life the next game because that was amazing. I think I just had to get that out of my system. I'm not so stressed right now, but like the obvious thing, we've got to be better and we've got to be consistent.
I think that's it. I think people just want to see a little bit of consistency, not just consistency in the results, but like just consistency in the effort level. I think is a big thing. Like if you go out there and you lose a game 4-2, but you were crashing and banging and you hit a couple of goalposts as well, I think this fan base is largely pretty forgiving. And at least you can walk away from the game going, we almost had it. When you lay an egg like you did on Saturday, it's borderline inexcusable.
Yeah.
I don't know about forgiving. I did a poll on Twitter and it was like, what would you rather? And A was like the pandemic still have no hockey or the Oilers be losing 4-0 to the Habs. And like 78% of people, so they would rather have no hockey than be losing. It's ridiculous.
My problem with it is We'll see after tonight, because I just don't want what I fear could happen in a season like this, where there's a lot of games back to like very one day off. All this is that every second game they come out on fire, and then every other second game they straight up lay an egg, and that's what I'm kind of worried about. And so we'll see tonight if they and like, so we all hope they're going to come out on fire tonight. So then I guess really game 5 is going to be the one where I can start to like ease that thought, because right now it's like, it's no good if you play every second game. You know, that's not going to do it. And I didn't think they were going to have such a, like, lay such an egg on Saturday, and they did, and it sucked to watch. So,
well, they laid an egg. Like, you also had Montreal, who played Toronto, deserved to win that game, was pissed. They came in, took that out on us. But like, it would have been nice to see the Oilers that played on Thursday play that team on Saturday to see how we match up, because like, you have to give credit to Montreal. They were bringing it. Like, that Josh Anderson line was insane.
Yeah.
And Carey Price, we did have a lot of good scoring chances, and Carey Price stood on his head, but like, we need to be better.
The moment that flipped that game for me, they were down 3-0, Draisaitl across to Nugent Hopkins on the power play. He just kind of whiffed on it. Like, he had a really good chance to score. You blink and Jake Evans is going down and scores shorthanded. Like, it happened that quick. And if that goes in, I wonder, 3-1, if that game is a little bit different. But I mean, that's hockey, man. If you don't get the bounce, like, it's not like they give you credit for it.
I had kind of a busy weekend, and I didn't look deep into this kind of thing with football and all that. But can somebody explain this to me and all the other people that don't know this? But why did we go Koskinen 3 games in a row? What's going on? Are we going to play Smith? Like, what's going on with our goaltending situation?
Wait. Mike Smith's on LTIR.
I don't even know what that means.
He's on long-term injured reserve.
They're recalling a goalie. Chalmers, listen to this. This is the situation. They are trying to recall a goalie from Austria, right? They're like third or fourth string dude,
Olivier Rodrigue,
if you say so. And things are so complicated that they literally put an open call out for goalies, and Ken Holland called Jimmy Howard, who was on the verge of retiring. He was like, come on, Jimmy, just do like an emergency thing. And Jimmy Howard told him no.
He forced the retirement announcement out of him, essentially.
The Oilers' defense is so bad, Jimmy Howard would rather retire than come play here.
It's like, I have a legacy to think about, and then refused. Why are we not playing Mike Smith? He's on the LTIR.
Well, no, my thing, I kind of focused a lot on football this weekend. Plus, we were away. We went skiing. But I didn't know that. But if that was everywhere, then I apologize for that. But hey, a couple days late.
What do you more think about the news?
Not a good thing.
What do you think about the news?
Huey Lewis in the news?
Yeah, Huey Lewis in the news.
What news?
Well, what do you think about the news about why Mike Smith can't play in the goalie situation? How's that grab you?
Well, I just don't even. Why is he on it? Like, what happened to him? Like, just
no one knows. He was on the bench for the season opener, and then by the second game, like 15 hours after he sat on the bench for the season opener, they were calling up Stuart Skinner on an emergency basis, and then like the next day, Smith's on LTIR, and they have no third goalie right now because Carolina fucked around and took Forsberg off waivers, which at the time seemed like a nothing move, but now you're sitting there being like, holy shit, we need Anton Forsberg really bad. And the guy they claimed off waivers from LA, Troy Grosenick, he drove up here. But then there was the talk that the Oilers might get Aaron Dell off waivers from Toronto. So Gregor, I think, said on his show today that Grosenick stopped at the border in Montana and waited to see if the Oilers would claim Dell. And then when he heard that they didn't claim Dell, he crossed the border.
Oh, wild. And then there's the whole because Dell went to Jersey, the whole domino effect that can unlock. Josh Park, my fellow co-host on the pregame show, don't know if you know about it, smash it if you are looking for something that's entertaining. But he was walking me through the process of Dell goes to New Jersey. That means they're probably going to waive Eric Comrie. Eric Comrie then Winnipeg will probably reclaim Eric Comrie to get him back, which means Anton Forsberg could then go back out on waivers, which means the Oilers could then get back Anton Forsberg.
They should get Eric Comrie, bring the hometown boy home.
He would be
some Austrian fuck.
Is this the most confusing thing that's happened in a situation like this in Oilers history? Or what?
I don't get it. It's so, and it literally is because Carolina took Forsberg. If Carolina just wouldn't have touched Forsberg, we wouldn't have had any of this mess. But they only took Forsberg because they wanted the insurance policy, because they wanted to get Nedeljkovic through waivers. Like, just a shit show. Just in general, a massive shit show.
I'm still confused why people have, I know why, but like, it doesn't make sense why you have to clear waivers to go to the taxi squad.
Yeah, that one, like that's where the NHL messed up, in my opinion. And it's hindsight 2020, and it's only a story for us because we followed the Oilers. But the NHL should have given every team an exempt third goalie from waivers and just said, listen, in this year, you need the third guy. Now, granted, a lot of teams have found a way to make it work, but I kind of think the NHL dropped the ball. And now you have goalies who are traveling all around the continent because they keep getting claimed on waivers. Sidebar, if Eric Comrie were to be claimed by the Oilers, I believe he would be the third son of Bill Comrie.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Then you
Eric
can
Comrie.
you can have an E Comrie, an M Comrie, and a P Comrie jersey. Woo!
Yep.
Dynasty.
He's a half brother of Mike Comrie, for those of you who are wondering. Clearly
the NHL half.
Yeah, the NHL half. So yeah, the goaltending situation is far from figured out, although some people like Low Tide are very high on Troy Grosenick, who has really good AHL numbers, but only 2 career NHL games.
But his NHL stats are elite.
Oh yeah, his NHL numbers are insane. He played 2 games and was like fucking unreal, and then never played again.
Yeah. So yeah, good. I'm willing to make that bet.
For me, back on the goaltending, I can't believe they didn't yank Koskinen. You know, you're going to have to, I ranted about this in my pregame podcast today. You know, you're going to have to lean on him heavily. I'm worried about him being burnt out. Why wouldn't you just pull him out for the third period against the Habs when you know you're losing and at least see what you have in Stuart Skinner?
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm with you. You have nothing to lose.
Exactly.
And you're just, all you're doing by leaving him in net is just, really affecting his already shattered confidence.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the Oilers start with our friend Harnarayan Singh in a few minutes here when he eventually, when he joins us here on the podcast. He's gotten to do a couple of Oilers games. He's also gotten to, Jack Michaels also made his Oilers TV debut. Anyone got a take on that? How was Jack for the Oilers game?
Love Jack.
I love Jack too. He just there can be nothing going on and he still gets me fired up as if something is going on.
Yeah.
He's got a good voice. His voice just exudes energy. So everything he's saying, good or bad, it's it gets my attention. So I'm a big Jack guy. Jack and Louis, hell of a tandem.
Harnarayan and Louis, great tandem as well. And I'm really excited to talk to Harnarayan. He did over 700 Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi edition games. That was his first nationally televised English broadcast. So I'd love to know, what's different for him between the two. And also he's at the rink on top of that, which is cool.
He was smooth.
Yeah.
He did a very, very good job. You'd never know it was his first game announcing in English.
Yamamoto goal call was great.
Great.
Oh yeah. It's so good. Yeah. There's going to be many more coming for sure. I feel like he's part of the crew because he's been on the show, and now that he was already on the big stage, but it's just his star is growing, and I'm just sitting here and I feel I'm proud of this guy. He's really doing it.
100%.
We have a good run of guests coming up here on the next few shows. On Thursday, we're going to talk to, speaking of Mike Smith, the artist who painted his mask. And one, I'd like to know, I have so many questions when it comes to guys who paint goalie masks for a living, but how much is it a back and forth between the artist and the goalie? Is he going every...
And did you get paid in full?
Why wouldn't he get paid in full?
Because if he didn't get paid for this helmet, it might not be in use this year.
Oh,
maybe he might not get paid for that bad boy.
Shit.
Mike Smith says, "I'll pay you per game I wear it," and the artist is like, "That's a great deal." And then it's "Oh shit!"
Oh yeah.
He's what? Yeah. And it looks like next Monday we might have a former Oiler on the pod as well. I think it's confirmed, but I don't want to jinx it, so I'm just not going to plug who it is. Yeah, I'm not going to jinx it yet. But we got an exciting little week coming up here. Before we get to Harnarayan, just quickly for the game tonight, Jake Allen's going to go between the pipes for the Canadians. He's had the Oilers number in his last 5 games. He has a .944 save percentage. But it's always fun because a lot of people, I think, will be listening to this podcast after the Oilers game tonight. Let's do score predictions because I like when we can make our case for what the score is going to be. We do this on Oilers Nation Radio once in a while. And then people get to listen to this after the game, and now they're going to be So let's start. Wanya, what do you think? Score prediction tonight?
Let me go second.
Okay, you're going to go second. I'll go first. I will say
I don't
the
know
Oilers.
if there's any lineup implications. That's my one question I don't know about. Is anybody out or anything for tonight?
Ethan Bear and Caleb Jones are healthy scratches. So is Tyler Ennis.
And on the opposition?
Jake Allen in for Price, I think, is the only one. I think the Oilers could get to them. I think the Oilers kind of thing this year is that they're going to bounce back really well. They're going to have a lot of bad games, but they'll always bounce back really well. So I think McDavid gets a pair of points at least. Draisaitl gets his first goal of the year. Edmonton wins this one 5-2.
McDavid's mad. So, we have a good chance at winning tonight. I'll jump in next because I'm talking. I feel like because of what Tippett's doing, there's going to be a big focus on defense. So I think this is one of those ones, especially at 6.5. I'd bet the under all day on this. Where I think it's going to be, my prediction is 3-2.
Whoa, tight one. Regulation or OT?
As much as I want OT for the entertainment, but we can't have 3-point games. 2 points. I am trying to manifest a regulation win.
Fair enough. Bag milk?
I don't know, man. I'm nervous about this one. It's not that I don't think that they can't bounce back, because with Connor, Leon, and Nuge, those three are already producing, which is great. But fuck, they played really badly on Saturday. It was shockingly poor. And I thought that Montreal hadn't played since Wednesday. Maybe the extra at bat would help the Oilers get through it. And the eternal homer in me is going 4-2 Oilers.
Ooh,
good man.
Fair enough. Wanye or Chalmers?
Chalmers, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm going to be the contrarian here. I think they're going to beat us again. I think it's going to be 4-2.
Ooh.
Wow.
Oh.
I think you might.
Did
you think that this is Habs radio, Chalmers? Are you on Habs radio in your mind, where that type of talk is appropriate?
Let me do this. What I want to happen, 4-1 Oilers. What I think is
oh,
happen
nice, 4-1.
With my head, 4-2 Canadians. Now I can't be wrong.
Fair enough. Wanye, what are you thinking?
6-3 Oilers.
I love it.
Leon with a hat trick.
Whew.
Yeah,
spicy.
He's mad, man. You're not going to rub the Oilers' face in a down game, like you said. They're always going to bounce back this year. They're going to do well. Everybody needs to calm the fuck down.
That I think everybody needs to calm the fuck down. But there are definitely concerns. I find it interesting that Ethan Bear's coming out after one tough game, a little bit of tough love from old Tip there.
Here's where I'm going with that. I can see both sides. I do agree. It's very quick to pull the trigger on a healthy scratching, but that might have been the worst game of Ethan Bear's NHL career. It's up there if it's not. He was not good. And he scratched Chris Russell 3 games already this year. And I think what the message he's trying to get to that decor is you cannot take a night off, right?
I'm sorry. Who doesn't want to pull trigger on a healthy scratching?
What? I don't get the joke.
I did not land. I thought that was funny. You said pull trigger on a healthy scratch, and who doesn't? You did a look around. You feel like you got a healthy opportunity to go for it, and you scratch.
Are we talking about your butt or your dick, or what are we talking
Whoa!
about? What?
Anything?
Can't take dick on this podcast.
Hey, Remcheck, do something. Hit your button with the Big Brother noise.
The markers. Anything that goes inside your nutsack underwear.
Cotton Eye Joe, quick, Tyler, go.
I'm very quick to the con. That one is always there on every screen I have. Cotton Eye Joe.
If you I put that through my "is this funny" filter, and I said it came over the green chat mark. I said
it.
No, you gotta play your cards, man.
Shit. And then I had to over-explain it. Actually, I come from the school that if you have to over-explain your joke, it's actually funnier.
Okay.
You don't need to have us laugh at the joke for it to be funny. Someone's laughing at it.
Jay, you set me up beautifully for a Twig and Berries ad.
Yes, you're welcome.
Scratching whatever is inside your nutsack underwear. Our friends at twigandberries.ca. They have some great products. They're a great local company. They also have the Getting Lucky threesome, which I've talked about a lot. It's $50 on their website. Red pair of underwear, red long sleeve shirt, nice pair of socks with some lips on it. That is how you get it going on Valentine's Day with the Getting Lucky threesome package from Twig and Berries. Use the promo code Nation15 for 15% off. And twigandberries.ca. This has been an interesting podcast so far. I've enjoyed it, though. It's been hilarious. Wanya, where are you going?
Pacing back and forth.
Fair enough.
Wanye Jr. is on his way over, and because this podcast was supposed to be earlier, it's a drive-by. So I have to emerge from Wanye Manor, hand off of the little football, and then start
running back in. That's fair.
So I just gotta, but I'm also pacing to burn off energy because I don't know if you heard COVID-19. Don't leave your house. That whole.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's good. Pacing like a death row inmate in here, for fuck's sakes.
Anyways, the Ethan Bear thing before we got sidetracked. Anyone else got a problem with the Ethan Bear scratching?
Scratching. You know what? Tip's trying to get a reaction, and I think I'm okay with it. Because it's early on in the season, and the D hasn't been where we need it to be. So, if this shakes things up and gets the reaction we want, I am all for it.
The defense is Jimmy Howard retiring bad right now.
Yeah.
Think about that. Think about that as a score.
Yeah. Everyone's got to play more consistent. I love Ethan Bear and can't wait for him to be fired up and back in the lineup. And hopefully this was a good move. But yeah, I can live with it today. Maybe not tomorrow.
I think if it helps what you said with you can't take a night off in this condensed season where every game means so much. If that's the message he has to send, then that's the message he has to send because you cannot take a night off. Or we will be doing this one step forward, one step back routine all season, and that's not going to be good enough.
I thought it was interesting that Ethan Bear got healthy scratch, but I don't have a problem with it. I mean, this is a young player. He's got, I don't know how many career games under his belt, less than 100, I would imagine. And, it's bound to happen. He's bound to fuck things up. And I bet when he gets back in against Toronto on Wednesday, he's going to be much better.
100%.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Ethan Bear is the one where whether you win or lose tonight, he's back in against Toronto. If they come out tonight and win the game 4-1, I don't know if Caleb Jones necessarily gets his spot back right away. I think there's enough competition on that left side of the blue line, especially when you factor in Slater Cuckoo, who can play both sides. Like Caleb Jones, Ethan Bear had one bad game. Caleb Jones has had 3 games where he has not been particularly good to me.
Can we talk about Caleb Jones getting pointed off the ice by Connor McDavid against Vancouver on the power play?
What happened?
So Caleb Jones was out there on the power play, probably just coincidence.
It just ended. A 4-on-4 just ended.
Okay.
So he was walking the blue line towards the middle, thinking he was going to take a pass from Connor, maybe get a shot on net, something, whatever. And then Connor just pointed at the bench and went, go, so that Nuge could come.
Connor had the puck too. Had the puck on the wall, close to the bench. He's stick handling the puck. He looks at Caleb Jones. He points him off to the bench. Stick handles until Nuge gets on, and then proceeds to make a play. And
captain, got a captain, man.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh man, I don't mind that at all. I
don't mind it either. I loved it.
Yeah.
You're the captain. That's your power play if you're Connor McDavid. If you don't want Caleb Jones out there getting ready to take a one-timer, Caleb Jones ain't going to be out there taking a one-timer.
I like that Caleb Jones had the wherewithal to understand what Connor was saying and get off the ice.
Well, because at first
in that situation.
Because at first, like you said, Bag Milk, Jones opened up for a one-timer. Like he started skating backwards towards the middle of the ice. He was like, this is my chance. He's like, shit.
It's you and me, and Connor, you and me until the end. Get the fuck off the ice. Yes, sir.
It was it was just funny. I don't know. Like when Connor, it's Connor's team, and it's nice to see him developing to a spot where he will literally send someone off the ice.
Yeah. I also really like that the Oilers stopped wearing those weird navy blue jerseys. I like that they went back to the oranges.
The jerseys aren't weird. Those are probably the best street jersey we've ever made. They're so slick when you see them in person. They just don't translate well on TV because they don't when they're moving around, it gets confusing. So
all right.
But the jersey itself is tight. I'll defend the jersey.
Harnarayan Singh is ready to go here. So let's get to our guest here today on the Real Life Podcast. Joined on the Real Life Podcast now by Harnarayan Singh, NHL on Sportsnet, Hockey Night in Canada, and Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi edition. Over 700 games, right, for Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi?
That's right.
Now you got 1 on the English, or 2 on the English side under your belt. Let's go back to game 1, though. What was it like making your debut, man? Hockey Night in Canada, NHL season opener?
Yeah, it was pretty special, to be honest with you. Such a thrill, such a significant moment, a game changer career-wise, for my family, for my colleagues at Hockey Night Punjabi, for the entire community, to be honest with you. This was, it was really special, such a thrill, and it was a long time coming. I had been hoping and praying for this day for a long, long time.
Man, you got the book, you got your Hockey Night in Canada English debut. It's been quite a wild few months for you.
Yeah, it has been lots to be grateful for. It is a pretty unreal time, to be honest with you. I couldn't have predicted this. And then, yeah, the impact of the book. And then just like, to be honest with you, when I was told that I was getting some games on the English side, for play-by-play, which is different. I had been doing the host role for the last 4 seasons every so often. And so for play-by-play, when they told me, I was speechless, I was stunned, and I was stoked. Like, those are the 3 words that came to mind, because it was just like, I haven't been this excited probably since I had my last kid, which is the safe thing to say, right? When you're a married man and you got 2 kids.
I mean, it's the last time we spoke, we went through the come up and getting to this point. It's a long way from having to pay your own airfare and sleeping in airports, isn't it?
It definitely is. And it's it's a very different situation to be in. I think that's why moments like this, I'm probably more grateful and thankful than the average guy in this position, because it's been a crazy journey. It's been, it's a different route, a different path to get to this way. And thankfully, the people in Power at Sportsnet have appreciated that it isn't the normal journey to get up to this stage. But, there's a lot of people out there who would love to be in this position that I'm in right now. So I'm really grateful. I know that first game was not perfect by any means. A lot of room for a lot of room for improvement. But I think as I get some more games under my belt, I'll start to get more comfortable. To be honest with you, it is something I've done. I'm comfortable in this role. I love it. And but it is a completely different language as well, right? So I had to get my feet wet, and so I could tell, even just in that Habs Oilers game, that was an absolute disaster for Edmonton. But for me, I did feel a lot more comfortable on the call, for sure.
Is it like a flow thing and a rhythm thing when you change languages like that? Like, is that kind of the hardest thing to get down? Like, what are some of the challenges jumping from Punjabi to English?
The challenges would just be your brain is playing this game where, sometimes you want to say something that it comes to mind, but you might actually think it in the other language, right? And that is something that, though we as bilingual people, we deal with that, and we do that on a daily basis. Like, I'm talking with you guys, I'm talking straight up English. If I talk with my parents or other people in the community, we can switch it up. But the other thing is that like a lot of people in my friend circle within the Punjabi community, we speak kind of Punglish, or a mix of Punjabi and English, and you end up throwing words into a sentence from both languages, right? And so I have to be a little conscious of that, and so that's probably the biggest battle. But it was a little bit of in that first game, I was probably curious too how I would maneuver that and manage that. But then once I realized, okay, yeah, this is we can do this. And then by game 2, it was like, I was so in the zone at times, and I was so like into it that I was like, not purposely, but ignoring what my producer was saying in my ear. And I was like, I was just so into it. I was loving it. It was a blast.
How satisfying, I got to ask the personal question though, how satisfying was it for you that your first game on the English side was an Oilers game? You grew up as an Oilers fan. That must have been huge for you.
It was pretty cool for sure. But, since then I've covered the Flames a lot. I've covered the Canucks a lot and the Leafs a lot. I would say those 4 teams, I've called a lot of games for them. And then even for Calgary, I do a segment for them called Flames TV Punjabi. So it is special. You know what the biggest thing was? It was opening night. It was and it was obviously it's going to be an all Canadian game, with it being an all Canadian division this season. But there's so much intrigue. There's so much. There was so much. Just, we haven't had hockey for so long now, during a time frame in the calendar year when we're so used to it. We're in the thick of things. We would be getting ready for the All-Star break right now, right? And it was the season opener, and to be able to have the confidence of management to give me that and to throw me in there, that was really special. I think having it be the season opener is something I won't ever forget.
A season opener unlike any other as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi edition, you guys did a lot of that from the studio, right?
That's right. And those are during the regular season. It's Saturday nights.
Yeah. So for you being at the rink calling an NHL game, not just at a rink, in an empty arena calling the game, what was that experience like?
Yeah, we've had the good fortune of doing a few games in the arena, and then a lot in the studio too. And it was different in the sense that okay, so let me give you some background. I was really fortunate to be in Edmonton and Rogers Place during the playoffs, right? And I was there in a host capacity, and Chris Cuthbert and Louis DeBrusque did an absolutely fantastic job calling those games. And I got used to that atmosphere, and I got used to them pumping a lot of crowd noise into the arena.
Yeah.
And then what I didn't plan for, didn't even think about, was during that regular season opener, there wasn't actually much crowd noise in the arena. And like later on, when I reflected back on my call, I was trying to figure out, I was like, normally I am very energetic. And it was like, I was trying to figure out, okay, analyze, like, what was that scenario like? And so it kind of made sense that, yeah, regular season game is more quiet, definitely, than a playoff game, right? And so I missed the fans, is what I would say. I really felt it as a play-by-play commentator. I would say I felt it a lot more than I did in any of those other roles of just watching a game, or even the host role. You really feed off the energy of the crowd that's in the arena, and so that was probably the biggest thing that I noticed the most there on day one of this season.
For me, the fake crowd noise, I laugh so many times at the rink because it pops up at like weird moments sometimes. Like you'll be sitting there and a shot will hit the post and it'll like go into the corner, someone will pick it up, and then you'll hear like, whoa, and you're like, what? That was like way too delayed.
They got into a rhythm in the playoffs. Like I
Yeah.
was getting impressed. Like it was later on in the playoffs, it started to get better and better, but this is, day one. I think all of us, even as broadcasters, even as players, like there was no preseason.
Yeah.
We got right into it. We have rust just as much as, any players. And then you have so many people working behind the scenes too. So I did notice that a little bit, but let's give everybody, including myself, some games here to get warmed up.
Also, a big shout out to Johnny Infamous, the DJ at the Oilers games, because he plays some great music inside that barn. Working with Louis DeBrusque as your color guy. What's that been like? Louis just seems like an absolute beauty.
Yeah, I couldn't have asked for anyone better to work with for my first two games on this. He is so easygoing, but he is also such a professional, and he knows his stuff inside and out. But the best part is you can kind of throw anything at him and you don't necessarily have to plan it. He's going to be able to carry it, right? Like whether it's banter or topics or whatever happens in the game, or let's say if I needed I needed him to jump in. I was like, drawing a blank or anything. Like he's the perfect guy for that. And he's always been so supportive. And I've gotten to know him over the past 4 years when I've done the host role, and just such a great guy. He is, we share a common, we love cereal, both him and I, and we bonded over that and having cereal as our nighttime snack. And my mom makes this, I use it in the Punjabi goal calls, it's visan, and it's like a homemade kind of fudge, and it's made of chickpea flour and other ingredients. And you have it with coffee or tea. And so on a happy occasion, like the playoffs or, the opportunity I got then, or like in this week, my mom made some, and, I handed out the sweets to Louis DeBrusque and a couple of the others to Tony Brar as well. And Louis loves that stuff. A great story to tell you. In the playoffs, I had my little container, and I went to do an intermission interview, and I come back and all I see is crumbs. And I'm looking around and I'm like, where? And then Louis looks over and he's shaking his head. He's like, I'm sorry, man. I just couldn't help myself. He's awesome. Really, truly one of the best in the industry.
That's so good. You always leave the lid on, if Louis is around.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little hockey right now. The Edmonton Oilers 1-2 to start the year. Inconsistent, I think might be a good way to describe it. What have you seen, or maybe what have you not seen that you'd like to see from the Oilers through 3 games of their season?
Yeah, it's one of those things where they just, it's almost like that first game against each team. I wonder if it's going to be like that, and then they go back and make the adjustments, and then they're able to to get it going. We saw that against Vancouver. It's like Jekyll and Hyde, right? It's just a completely different response in game 2 after a loss. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out, because the regular season is going to be like a playoff series. And I think I don't imagine very many teams going on long streaks, if at all, this season, because you're going to see those adjustments made especially on special teams, where, if one team has a great game on the penalty kill, the coaching staff and the players are going to make those adjustments, and it'll probably be the opposite the next game. It is there, I felt in that Montreal one, there was a lot more pressure on Koskinen in comparison to the first 2 games, even though Koskinen played so well, 38 saves in the second one against Vancouver. Montreal just made him move around a lot. And, he's going to get tired out if they can't figure out the goaltending situation soon here, because Montreal, you got to give credit where credit's due. Like, they look really good.
They do. I probably wasn't as high on them as I should have been at the beginning of the year, but
I think a lot of people are saying that.
Like Josh Anderson,
for the record, I was very high on Montreal.
Way to go, Jay.
Check
Way
the stats. It's the only thing I got.
Josh Anderson, like, holy smokes, man. That guy, I watched him a little bit in Columbus, but he was inconsistent in Columbus. If he can consistently do what he's done through 2 games here, that Habs team is going to be frightening in the regular season, and they'll be scary in the playoffs too.
Well, just look how deep they are at forward and on defense. And you've got guys like Lehkonen and Armia on the third line, and it's just, they can all play, and they're all they're consistent in the sense what you're going to get from them in every single situation and every single game. And then the young guys like Suzuki and Kotkaniemi, they took a step last year. I think they gained a lot of confidence. Philip Danault is underrated, he was even talking about his own role last season too, that he was wanting this. He was wanting to get those matchups against the other team's top lines and stuff, and he was concerned about his role. But I think it's a great fit. Look at Tyler Toffoli's on there as well, and he's kind of lost in the shuffle in the sense that they have so many other guys who can score as well. And then the size they brought in, Joel Edmondson and Sherratt's been there for a season too, but to add to Weber and Petrie, it looks like, and then of course Jake Allen. They probably are the best 1-2 tandem in the Canadian division, and Carey Price looks dialed in as more than ever before, in the sense that he probably feels great too that they have a better team in front of them, right? A better defense. So they look pretty damn good, to be honest with you.
Scary.
You mentioned the lack of preseason, Harnarayan, and how, normally guys work out the kinks over those handful of games. Obviously, there's not that luxury this year. How real do you think the results are in these opening weeks of the NHL season, seeing as, games can go one way or the other based on mistakes that generally don't get made later on in the year?
I would say that, in my opinion, it really, that's why we've seen some more high scoring games. And that happens to start at kind of every season, but this season is probably, we're going to see that even more because of the fact that we didn't have preseason games. I still think the results are fairly consistent with what the teams are. But it's those adjustments in these mini series that are really gonna, and it's also the role of the backup. I'm sure you guys have talked about it too. Like, the role of the backup is so much more significant than ever before, and the Oilers are in a really big predicament. I know Toronto kept Aaron Dell in their lineup on the roster for a long time, and they had to put him on waivers now with Robertson hurt. But it would have been a strategy that the Oilers, maybe should have considered more strongly, to keep Forsberg on there, especially given Mike Smith's 38 and there has been injury history but boy, that is a big predicament, even though there isn't another back-to-back for a few days still, but it's a big workload for Koskinen. And that's what happened prior, when he was tired, when they played him a little too much earlier in his career.
I think one of the things we need to focus on is trying to make his life a little bit easier, given the extensive workload that he has. And we are giving up some, outside of the second game, some crazy high danger quality chances. And as much as I want Koskinen to make a save on a couple of those, and that could help things, but like the reality is like a lot of those things are avoidable if we're playing hockey in front of them.
He's faced the most shots in the NHL and the most high danger shots against in the NHL already, only 3 games in.
And there you go. And then that's where you wonder, maybe Chris Russell make his way into the, I know a lot of people aren't necessarily all fans, but in terms of blocked shots, that's a way to help your goalie. And he's been, one of the better guys at that in the entire league, not just the Oilers. And Klefbom was also, like, if you think about it, Klefbom was blocking a ton of shots too, if I'm not mistaken. Last year, he led the team. And so you take out Klefbom because he's hurt, and then Russell goes out, and that's a lot of blocked shots. Obviously, the other guys do that too, but the Jones-Larson pairing, probably, there's going to be a lot of focus on them. Barry and Cuckoo, they're just getting their feet wet, but I think that they do have potential. And then look at the pressure on the other guys, right? Like without Klefbom there's a lot of pressure on Nurse and Bear, and Bear's still young. I mean, he had a great season last year, but it's one of those things where the expectations are so high on defensemen, and it takes them a little bit longer to mature and become consistent. And I know Oilers fans have seen that so much. With you just look at Jeff Petrie, right, and how good he's become, and he wasn't that player with the Oilers, but a little more patience would have done the team well and the fan base well with guys like him. So there is it doesn't when you look at, obviously Ken Holland did make adjustments and made the team more deep than before, but when you compare it to some of the other rosters out there, I think there is a little bit of work to do. And you're right, Jay, they gotta clean it up defensively.
Looking around the North Division, I think it's going to be exciting as teams start to build a little bit of animosity as games go on and on. Looking around the division, is there a team that kind of excites you a little bit by the way they're starting off, or the way they play, or even the way they're set up to play?
Yeah, I'm curious about Toronto. I know they made a lot of changes to become, more tough, and bringing in Simmons and then Thornton. The Maple Leafs and the Oilers were the better teams last time around, but I think a lot of people have I don't think Vancouver has taken as much of a step back as people have really made that out to be. I mean, so you lose Markstrom, you lose Tanev, you lose Levo and Toffoli, but Nate Schmidt is a really good defenseman. I've always liked how he played. And Braden Holtby, there were some question marks. He looks fantastic, to be honest with you, to begin the season. I think he's got something to prove. He's closer to home. Like, there's a lot of incentive for him. And Demko, he was dazzling in the playoffs. And the way he is, like, even when I had the chance to interview him and stuff, he's so even keel. I read a lot about him, and this guy has like studied psychology and the way he prepares himself and everything. And, there was that joke in the playoffs too, when I think it was Quinn Hughes who said that he goes to sleep early and eats well and all that kind of stuff. Like, that explains Demko. I'm not worried about Demko at all. And then if you look at the way the Canucks are set up, like look at Höglander and look at Hughes, and then you look at Besser. I think Besser is he's done a lot of work in the offseason. I think the Canucks are still strong despite losing the guys that they did. So that was one thought. We've talked about Montreal. I think they're a lot stronger, as you mentioned, Tyler, too, that a lot of us should have had them higher on the list. I know Brian Burke in our circle at Sportsnet has them to win the division too. So I would say, Montreal and Vancouver provide that intrigue for me. That I think that it might not be what everybody was thinking in terms of doomsday for Vancouver, especially.
Last area I wanted to touch on with you, in the Oilers Canucks game, the first game, there wasn't really a lot of animosity in that one until the end when McDavid laid out Quinn Hughes, and you could tell he got a lot of F-bombs thrown at him as he was skating back to the bench. And then in the first Habs Oilers game, it wasn't insane by any means. I'd be interested to see what we're going to get tonight from animosity. And going forward, do you think the first meeting between these teams might be tame, but like by game 8 or 9 might be like, we could get some, not brawls, but games that get a little bit out of hand. Like, they could get spicy here.
Yeah, just like it would in the playoff series. But then what I would be interested and curious to know is, so on Saturday, the Oilers didn't have Cassian in their lineup, and it felt like they missed him. Like, I don't know who on their team. I know Nurse can drop the mitts, and I'm not advocating for fighting necessarily, but it's kind of like you got to have those types of players who can mix it up as well. And so that's something that, you mentioned that first game on Wednesday night, the season opener. It was like a weird pace to even begin with. There was a lot of icing calls. It didn't seem like it had much flow. But I think as the season goes on, and then once these teams develop a history with one another, you're going to see a lot more fireworks. But the role of those kind of sandpaper players, that's going to increase a lot too. And there's certain teams out there that have a lot more sandpaper than others right now. That's for sure.
Harnarayan, man, as always, we appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing you on some more Oilers broadcasts this year.
Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it.
All right, there we go. There's Harnarayan Singh, NHL on Sportsnet, Hockey Night in Canada, Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi edition. He'll be back on the air Saturday. Jets and Flames is his next one. Not quite sure when he's getting another Oilers game, but I think we'll see him a lot this season. Good stuff from Harnarayan. Good analyst too. Like, he just generally can break down all these Canadian teams well.
Oh yeah, like perfectly. Like he's just ripping players off from each team like ain't no thing. But like, those are the skills you need to be at that, and he's at the highest level. So he's bringing it. Very, very proud of that guy. And just
self-aware too. Like, he goes, "Hey man, first game against Vancouver, I didn't bring it." He said, "I didn't have it." Second game, he felt more comfortable, and I thought he's had a couple of great calls for the Oilers though.
Oh yeah, I thought the first game was fine. So it's always interesting to hear kind of the inside scoop, like the story behind the scenes there, saying he had the nerves and how he was fact checking himself in terms of like how he sounded and what he needed to do, and how ranking that against how it was in the bubble, and like identifying the things that were maybe preventing him from being as energetic as he was in the playoffs and all that type of stuff. Like, he's a professional, and he's really doing it.
And even when he's talking about the Oilers, it's just like he knows.
He knows. Yeah.
He wasn't so glowingly positive about the Oilers. That's
No.
I know he's not wrong, but we're just talking current state. This is just the current state. This is just today.
Exactly.
Tonight's
Hopefully they bounce back tonight with a big one. All right, there you go. That's going to do it for episode 248 of the Real Life Podcast. That was a good chat. I love talking to Harnarayan, man. That guy, even though he wasn't like crazy high on the Oilers, I always leave in a good mood after I chat with him. Just an absolute beauty.
He's got a smile on his face the whole time. Very positive guy. Like, geez, what's not to love?
When I was texting him earlier today, he was like, "This is just like an audio cast, right?" And I was like, yeah. And he goes, "Good. I'm having a bad turban day now. I just won't bother fixing it." It was hilarious. All right. That's going to do it. Episode 248 of the Real Life Podcast. Enjoy the game tonight, or if you're listening to this after Monday night, enjoy the game on Wednesday. Shout out to Oodle Noodle and Twig and Berries. Don't forget 15% off with the promo code NATION15. Have a good one, Oilers fans.
Great job on making it through the entire hour of the Real Life Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from.